Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. I'm sure everybody's glad to be past hump day. So today is just a reminder for your own wellness and mental health. Make sure you go where you feel good, where the energy's good, whether that's people, places, environment, technology, music. Make sure what you're feeding your mind through your environment, your interactions are things that feel good and places where you want to be, right? We all have choices in daily life, so we get to decide, right? What we gravitate towards. I know for myself, I try to avoid gossip and people and situations where negativity does occur, because that can rub off on us and create more negativity, right? So even if it's just through music or what you're reading or your social media and your groups, especially like with politics and things occurring in today's world, it's kind of like a us versus them mentality, and we got to get away from that, because that's the only way we're going to survive as humanity and as a nation and a planet even. So, I think it's really important that when there is negativity, that we recognize that and try to isolate it, right? So it's like one of them things where if we all focus on our own happiness and well-being, and we go to the places that genuinely feel good, the places that uplift and empower and support us and are positive, if we all gravitate towards that and just kind of leave the negativity aside, just as with anything, negativity is going to be left with other negativity, and sometimes that is the mirror they need in order to change the situation and their lives and their thinking, right? Just like with anything, when you isolate it and you want to eradicate it, whether no matter what kind of negativity it is, if it's cancer, you want to isolate that cancer and eliminate it, and that goes with anything within our body and any kind of disease, right? So whether it is groups or our system, our body system, right? We need all the parts functioning effectively and cooperatively and balanced, right? And I think that same concept can definitely be applied to humanity as well. Even in the sense that, even down to a cellular, theory, right? So if we have a cell and they're not operating and functioning effectively, that can affect our thoughts, such as, I'm not sure if you all are familiar with neuron pruning. So neuron pruning is a concept that says that basically it's a action that removes unnecessary neurons and neuron pathways so that your neurons don't go to different parts in your brain and different parts of your body. And this is important to take into account this fact. You got to remember, anybody with trauma histories, or even those of you who may not feel like you have trauma histories that may have been neglected from age, birth to 1 year old and wasn't picked up out of your, crib and bassinet and things like that, that is neglect. And technically that is the most crucial, time in one's life to creating those neuron pathways. A lot of times people in these environments, they also score high on the ACEs and, maybe, want to create a better life. Some of them go into the military and then they had that further trauma, or they put themselves in abuseful and stressful situations that further that, that negative loop and that, stress response system, and it's really hard to be able to get ahead of that, right? So it's really important to identify whether it's your work environment, your social environment, people you're around, or even just the technology and the shows that you're watching, right? All of that is feeding into your mind, even again at that cellular level. So if you find yourself unhappy, on the defensive, annoyed, and I'm saying this through personal experience, by the way, I have realizations daily, you have to catch yourself and say, I'm in this negative way of thinking, I'm in this negative way of feeling. Is this how I want to feel? And if not, do everything you can to change it. I know people that were raised with no trauma in totally healthy environments, and they, will engage in, toxic behaviors and negativity and, bringing others down for no really, I'm sure there's a reason deep down, but, it's important again, to isolate these things and people and be around situations that are positive and supportive and uplifting, especially if you have a lot of trauma and different different things like that, because at a neuron level, you want to be able to prune those neuron pathways, right? If you're in that overactive stress response system from being exposed to repeated trauma, and this is why, I'm really supportive of working with military and veterans, because it really does affect their brains. And then if they have childhood trauma on top of that, it's the whole double-edged sword type of thing. I will say this, I had PTSD too, so, I don't have combat veteran experience, but I can totally relate, because, most of our behaviors and thoughts and actions are directed by our subconscious. The majority, almost basically, I can't remember the exact percentage, but I want to say it's like 70-something% of our actions are, carried through unconscious thinking about patterns that are directing our behaviors. And this is where they say that you got to get ahead of your thoughts. You have to be able to be the witness of your thoughts and be able to control that. And that's not easy for anybody to do. Not a guru, not therapists, not psychologists, not people of the highest intellect. It's never easy. And then again, those with a lot of trauma or have been to combat and been in long periods of time in stressful situations, you've reinforced those neuron pathways to make you more reactive, more susceptible to reacting on impulse and direct, without thinking things through, and I do the same thing, and this is a battle I struggle with daily. It's trying to get ahead of that, and being able to redirect your thoughts and and all of that. I think of it as swimming upstream, right? It really is a difficult thing to be able to change. But when you think about it in a scientific level and you become consciously aware of the choices you're making and the environments and the people that you're around and the things that you're feeding your mind, it does help you to be able to get ahead of that curve, right? So how would you recognize this? I recommend being able to recognize, if I'm defensive, if I'm fearful, if I'm stressed out, if I'm angry, those are good signs that I need to back up and take a, more objective instead of a subjective stance and think about what's occurring, because in that time, any of those thoughts are going to produce all those chemicals in your body. So if you can't catch the thoughts, think about catching the chemicals in your body. The cortisol and adrenaline that makes you want to be defensive and jump off in the mouth or, fight somebody or, engage in negativity or gossip. You got to think about that. That's creating stressful hormones in your body, and those hormones are creating the negative health outcomes. You'll live less. Again, you're strengthening those stress response system and the negative neuron pathways. That's more reasons why you got to find ways to be able to prune them, right? So again, if you can't get ahead of the thoughts, try to recognize those chemical reactions that are occurring in your body and try to get ahead of them. So, again, whether it's at a cellular level, a cell, all the parts have to work together efficiently and be balanced to be able to be effectively, whether it's connections of cells and neurons, to make up our brain or our body or our, cellular system or anything else, they all have to work together and they have to be balanced. Whether it's, even technology, right? It has to be balanced. If there is one piece of something that's toxic or a virus that comes in, it'll totally take out the whole system, right? That's why we have such an amazing military intelligence here in America, right? To keep us safe. But even then, so we got to recognize sometimes people in situations and even things within our body, they may not even know it's toxic. Heck, I catch myself in toxic thinking patterns sometimes, and I really, again, it's a battle that you got to keep trying, right? Again, getting ahead of those things, but we need to recognize and figure out what is toxic and what doesn't feel good, because you have to separate it. Whether it's your thinking and toxic negativity, whether it's your social media feed, whether it's your friends and your support network, if they're being abusive, trying to put you down, not supportive, not positive, and not uplifting, that's a good sign to get the hell out of there. Because you know what, when all the positivity, you attract, like attracts like, right? So all the positivity, people are going to get together and they're going to be so strong, and that light is going to be so fierce that it is going to be able to isolate anything that's toxic, whether it's, disease, people, viruses, groups. Let them mirror one another, and, eventually that they will eradicate themselves, or else they'll be faced with a mirror and be forced to change. It all goes into the I don't mind being isolated and being alone. Really, I think that's a good thing. You need to be able to do that sometimes to understand that what you're thinking and what you put into your body and mind and all of these things are going to factor into how you interact with the world, you know. And so do what you can, get ahead of the thoughts, recognize the chemical reactions in your body and your negative thought patterns. And when you're around people, that anything that doesn't feel good, I mean, sometimes we have to be faced with people in situations that don't feel good, because those that really love us won't sit around and engage in you know, stuff that's negative and not helpful for ourselves. So again, you know, I having people in my life like that I get annoyed with sometimes, but you know, I also take the words that they say to heart, and those who know me know who I'm talking about. So anyway, God bless everybody. Stay safe, stay well, and reach out if you need anything. Always here.